Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe, and today I'm bringing you some more updated news on free agency and our beloved, bless you boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. How about those Saints? We finally made a big splash in free agency. We decided to sign defensive end Chase Young to a 1-year deal worth $13 million. Now, I was saying Chase Young would be lucky to get 1 year, $8 million. And I'm thinking that's probably what everybody else was offering him. And then, of course, the Saints come up and say, hey, we'll give you $13 million. Maybe he was getting $12 million somewhere else. Saints are like, $13 million, fully guaranteed. Why not? Well, if we have the money and we find the money, then fine. This is a great investment. He's a young guy, 24 years old. He's already been in the league a few years. And, there's this inclination to believe that he takes off plays, and that's my biggest problem. So he comes into the league. He has like 7.5 sacks his first season, becomes defensive rookie of the year, makes the Pro Bowl. This is after being the number 2 overall pick by the Washington Commanders, and looks like he's just going to be a defensive end in the league that you have to account for, and he's going to be one of the best players, and get ready. And then in the next season, he gets hurt. And he played half the season and only had like 1.5 sacks, something like that. And then he got hurt. And then the recovery from the injury lasted through his third year before he could see the field again. And then in his fourth season, which was last year, the Commanders traded him halfway through the season to the 49ers, where he finished the year last year, ended up going to the Super Bowl. I think he may have been benched during the playoffs by the 49ers, but he did play in the Super Bowl, and he had a good Super Bowl. And overall last year, between both teams, the Commanders and the 49ers, I think he ended up with another 7.5 sacks, something like that. So not a bad year last year when he remained pretty healthy, and a really good year his first year when he was healthy. So there's the question of the injury, and then there's also the question of whether he tries hard every play. Well, I'm assuming that this must have popped up in his second year after he had won Defensive Rookie of the Year. To go a half a season, only have 1.5 sacks before getting hurt. And then, of course, there may have been some more accusations of that this past year, before Washington traded him. San Francisco benching him in the playoffs kind of makes you think that there's some issue there as well. So that's my biggest issue with Chase Young, that he came out of college hot and very young, and cashed in on a big rookie contract that, after having that great first year success, maybe he's just tapping the brakes. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that this $13 million contract that the Saints are giving him is going to be the most money he's seen at one time ever. So if he has an issue with trying very hard, yeah, we'll find out pretty quick. Chase Young is 6'5", 264 pounds. So he's right at the very minimal weight that I like for a defensive end. Now, he's big enough to handle himself on the end of the line, I believe, but I don't think he's going to be an every down player for the Saints. Some people think he's going to take Cam Jordan's place right out of the get-go and start. Some people think he's going to take Carl Granderson's spot and start. I don't see either one of those happening. I think that overall Chase Young will probably have better numbers than Cam Jordan when it's all said and done, because you're talking about a 24-year-old going up against somebody that's 11, 12 years older than him. Young is a pass rusher, so I expect him to get sacks. I expect him to be in there on passing situations. And so the way I'm looking at it right now is that Cam Jordan will start at defensive end and play the early downs, and then Chase Young will come in to give him a breather every now and then. But maybe Chase Young comes in on third downs every third down too. Maybe Chase Young plays the majority of the second half if the Saints are in a position of where they're winning and they can pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. So overall, I would say, yeah, Chase Young's a pretty good replacement player for Cam Jordan, but we got Cam for another year or two, so that's the way I look at it. I think Chase is going to be a rotational player. Eventually, he'll probably put up pretty decent numbers, and then maybe the Saints try to keep him after this year. Maybe we sign him to a long-term deal, and he becomes the eventual replacement for Cam Jordan. This is something that the Saints needed, a defensive end that can play on the defensive line and who is young and who can be your eventual replacement for Cam. So I like it. This takes the pressure off of trying to find a defensive end or a pass rusher in the draft. You don't need to do it early and right away now. You still could, but that's the way I look at Chase Young. I think that when it's all said and done, he's not going to have enough playing time to really justify a $13-14 million a year contract. But that's probably what we're going to end up having to pay him if we want to keep him anyway. It's what we had to pay him to get him here. Yeah, and by next year, you never know. Defensive ends could be demanding 20+ million, so we'll see. In other Saints news and free agency, we've also signed an offensive lineman named Oli Udoh, and I may be mispronouncing this. Oli Udoh. So I'm going to go with Oli or Ollie. How about Oli Udoh? All right, he was drafted in the 6th round out of a college called Elon University and drafted by the Vikings. He's started 18 games in his career. He's played in 40-something games, and he's been primarily a backup guard and tackle. He's played every position on the offensive line except for center during his time with the Vikings. And the majority of his starts happened in 2021 for the Vikings, where he started 16 out of 17 games. And that was the year that Clint Kubiak was calling plays for the Vikings. So there's a connection there. Kubiak knows the guy. Kubiak had him as a starter. He started at right guard that year. And so now we get this guy. He's 6'6", 320 pounds. He's got like almost 36-inch arms, 10-inch hands. So he's a great size for offensive lineman, a good size to play tackle. And, yeah, like I said, he's played both sides of the line, tackle and guard. So the way I look at this guy, 5-year veteran, is that he's going to come in and pretty much be a James Hurst type of guy, except younger. A little younger, a little bigger and stronger, probably faster. Clint Kubiak knows the player. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to end up being our 6th guy on the offensive line. I think that's what we're looking at. Maybe James Hurst eventually has to start somewhere. But yeah, this guy having seen action in 40-something games over his career makes me think that he was getting a lot of the big jumbo package plays, playing on special teams and stuff. So yeah, he wasn't inactive. He was an involved player. So we have questions on the offensive line. We get ourselves a nice piece here, I think. A big guy that Kubiak's familiar with, probably knows how to play wherever he needs to be put, has the athleticism and the size to do it. And if we're going to get better on the offensive line, this is a nice place to start. A guy that's got starting experience, a guy that can play multiple positions, and a guy that's a lot younger than some of the players you have on the team now. I look at Udoh as a guy that's going to come in and compete with Landon Young, and you're going to make sure you're secure at the guard and tackle spot. Just another little place to plug for this team in free agency. Cover our bases right now, and that way you're not force the draft's a position of need in the draft. You can go and get the best available player. So I like these moves right here. If anything else happens with the Saints, I will do a video and let you know. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about the Saints from me, Joe, a Saints fan. I don't know anything about football other than being a fan and loving it. And hopefully my perspective is grooving with yours. Let me know in the comments what you think. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?